This photo really says it all from the hearing that we talked about yesterday. And I want to speak to that for a second and then look at an image that is disturbing that a photographer caught. But here you can see, I'll describe for our podcast listeners, a photo from Pam Bondi'S hearing yesterday where she was sort of sitting, refusing to turn around and look at the survivors of Epstein's abuses. After a member of Congress had said, will you turn around and apologize for all that the DOJ has done that has been destructive to them, leaking their identities, covering up the files, obstructing the lawful orders that were given to the DOJ. Will you apologize for that? She wouldn't do it. And this image tells that story of them standing up and raising their hand. I think that was to a question about raise your hand if you haven't met with the DOJ or something like that. And it's her legacy. We talked about that yesterday. This is who Pam Bondi is going to be remembered for, and it's shameful. Now, at a different hearing, you might remember that her notes were photographed, Pam Bondi, and it was just sort of embarrassing to see that clearly for her, the priority was getting good clips, snapping at Democrats, and having something to whip out and throw at them instead of honestly laying out substantive answers. So you can see this was from one of the other hearings where she has on her folder, Sheldon Whitehouse, which is a Democratic senator. You claim to be a social justice warrior, but you're a member of and then it gets cut off. You rail against dark money, but you work with dark money groups. So she has her little bangers. It's okay, you don't have to. We already reviewed that. But now a similar thing happened at this hearing where she was grilled about Epstein, and it's even more disturbing. Take a look.
A couple of still photographers were able to grab still frames, including this one.
Yes.
A close-up of something regarding Pramila Jayapal, who was one of the first people to ask her questions. What is it?
Well, first of all, let's credit our colleague Fallon Gallagher, who found this as we were discussing. A number of us have been discussing Bondi's use of these so-called burn books. The image that you're looking at right there shows on the inside front cover of that binder a one-page sheet that at the top says Jayapal Pramila search history, and then it lists a number of things that are EFTA, stands for Epstein Files Transparency Act, and a bunch of numbers after that. I can tell you from experience that is how the Epstein files have been produced in the Department of Justice's library.
Just the quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button, the simplest, easiest, freest way, completely free, to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button. Back to the video.
And then there are summaries of each of those documents, including one summary that hasn't been unredacted yet, but they are telling Pam Bondi, whoever prepared this document, who is in a particular exchange about a torture video. The image at the very bottom is, instead of summarizing a document, they are giving her the visual. It appears to be a web of potential actors in an investigation prepared by the FBI. You can see a number of faces have been redacted in that. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein appear in that as well. But let's go back to the fact that it says Jayapal Pramila search history. Congresswoman Jayapal has told the public that yesterday she went to the Department of Justice to take them up on their offer to view unredacted documents. We know that there are 3 or 4 monitors there where members can come in from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and look at some of the documents that are in the Epstein Files library in their unredacted form. We don't know whether this correlates to her search history, but one possibility is that the Department of Justice can look to see how Congresswoman Jayapal, having some sort of username, what her search history was with respect to it, and be.
So think about that. As these members of Congress are being allowed, which is an important option for them, to go in and view the unredacted Epstein files, what it appears was caught in this photograph was them documenting that for Pam Bondi so that she would have that knowledge going into the hearing. This doesn't seem to be anything the members of Congress were told about. Nancy Mace, who normally is, but here she was on the correct side, saying it's creepy that the DOJ is monitoring the Congress members' Epstein file searches. And then to not just be technically monitoring it for some reason at some point, but to actually have printed out, which is what that image appears to be, what one of the members of Congress you're going to be questioned by was looking for, is so creepy And so weird, and you can see it there. Jayapal search history. And also, you gotta stop showing your cards, Pam. This is like whenever you do what do they call it? You're bleeding whenever you have your cards visible in a card game. Every time she puts her binder up so someone can snap a photo. Oh, you say that you care about this, but I have this thing ready. And what would that even be useful for? Congresswoman accuses Pam Bondi of trying to surveil her after photo seemingly shows AG tracked her Epstein files search history. So spooky. Now, Mike Johnson was asked about this. Is this appropriate? And you'll never guess what he said. I don't know.
In her Jayapal, the DOJ is tracking her search history. Is that appropriate conduct?
I'm not going to comment on an allegation that is unsubstantiated. I don't know anything about that.
Attorney General Bondi testified, and she had a piece of paper that had Jayapal's search history in her binder of the Epstein files.
I don't know anything about that, and I'm not commenting on it. I haven't seen or heard anything about that. But that would be inappropriate if it happened.
So I haven't seen anything about it, which is a shocker with Mike Johnson. He never seems to know anything about anything that he gets asked about. But if it did happen, then it would be inappropriate. At least he said that. And so it did happen, it appears. Then will you actually later, once you get it confirmed that it did have an issue? No. Then he'll say, well, after learning more, it actually makes some sense. And then you have Epstein survivors after this completely chaotic and disgraceful hearing from Pam Bondi speaking about their experience being in that room.
I was a little embarrassed to see that she couldn't say sorry to us because she sat there in the beginning, she said sorry for what Jeffrey Epstein did to us, but yet she couldn't apologize what she did to us, what her department did to us, right? It's like you had one job was to redact our names, to respect our privacy, but yet you carefully took the time to redact all these powerful rich men. So, it's like, is it your department that can't keep up with, are you guys being sloppy? What's going on here? It's what we wonder every day. Yeah. Where did it go wrong? And then I think we all realize now, oh, you guys really wanted to silence us. And you thought that you could scare us by putting our names out there. And to be honest with you, we've been through worse. This is nothing for us. If anything, this encourages us to speak more and not to be silenced. So,
wow, pretty dang powerful. But it is another scary element of this is picturing her sitting and prepping how she's gonna, I don't know if you caught this hearing, we covered it yesterday, but she's like screaming at different members of Congress and Raskin, you probably know a lot about the stock market because you're really good at it. And then going, they're talking about Epstein because the Dow is doing well, and Trump and the Dow is at blah blah. And that she was trying to argue the point that because the stock market's doing well, that is being distracted from by Epstein, which is just sickening and out of touch and ridiculous and incoherent. And I can't imagine being one of these women sitting in the audience hearing that and going, what? You think we are just pawns to distract from the stock market? So much bigger than that. But at that, I could picture her preparing and feeling like it's this game of how can she get an attack on one of the Democrats. And I think we'd all prefer if she'd just spend that time actually doing her job more properly. That would feel a lot better to I know them and much of the public.